town or just new to this whole podcast thing, you're tuning in to Lore by Night, the podcast that discusses all things vampiric with no fear of breaching the Masquerade. In this episode, we'll be looking at the vampire basics, what you need to know to survive in this world of darkness, as well as a very brief overview of the Clans and Sects. Your days as a happy, carefree mortal ceased to exist earlier tonight. You went to that club with many others, enraptured by the relentless dance beat. You danced with a herd of warm, sweaty bodies, off your face and whatever it is you kids snort these days. At some point, you were embraced, turned into a sign of the night, and now want nothing more than fresh, warm blood. It is the only liquid in your body now. You sneeze and cry it now, so consider that if you want to have a little mope about your predicament. The blood that courses through your veins now is not that of a human, but of a vampire. In shorter words, you're fucked. You can be vexed and skeptical all you want. I knew you drained the last of that individual's vitae, their blood, their very life essence. That's why you're here, isn't it? You don't have anyone else to look after you, and you came running over to me to save your sorry ass. I won't judge you for getting carried away. The first feed is always the most difficult. Morally, you know it's wrong, but yet it feels so right. It will become more natural over time, I assure you. You should learn when to stop feeding and lick the wounds close, should you wish to retain some of your precious humanity and not alert those around you that vampires exist. The other option is to succumb to your inner beast and become a creature that only kills, feeds and sleeps. Cling close to your humanity for as long as you can, for there are beasts everywhere and you'll be one of them sooner or later. Don't worry about the bum you were feeding on. They won't become a vampire. The embrace is somewhat different to how you and the world are meant to believe. When you drained that person, you didn't give them your new vampiric blood, which would have awoken the individual. But enough about them. Let's talk about life as a vampire. First of all, we don't use that word. Vampire, I mean. Most of us use the word kindred, whilst other groups of vampires use the term canite, and one particular group use the word setite. As kindred, you are clinically dead with no beating heart. You probably noticed a while ago that you don't need to blink or breathe anymore either. As a member of the living dead, you must sustain yourself with the blood of the living. The food and drinks you loved as a human are now disgusting and will cause you to throw up horrifically unless you have the willpower to stomach it. Oh, and we call the mortals kine. When you feed, you must do so at night, for you are a nocturnal hunter. You must avoid sunlight or perish. The same goes with fire, both of which can send you into a frenzy, where the beast within takes over using the flight and fight responses to get you away from the cackling flames. You may also enter frenzy if you grow too hungry, so feed often. But pay attention to the resonance of the blood of your food. You may find it may help you out in a pinch. Kindred are terribly difficult creatures to kill. Running water and garlic do nothing for most of us, similarly with holy crosses. However, there are some who wield great faith in the power a cross represents, causing a vampire to endure ill effect, or worse. But that can be a conversation for another time. As the wooden stakes through the heart, they won't kill you, they just paralyze you. Kindred refer to this as torpor. I should give you a brief history lesson about our origins, or at least the most popular of these theories, as that will be a good segue into finding out more about your clan. You may wish to refer to my copy of the Old Testament on the bookshelf over there. Go to Genesis chapter 4. You might be familiar with the story of Cain, the farmer, and his brother Abel, the shepherd, who both made offerings to God. God favoured Abel's offering over Cain's, which did not please Cain at all. Cain then decided he would diss Abel, his own brother, by murdering him with a rock. In the Bible, God punished Cain to walk the land forevermore. This took him to the land of Nod, where he built a city and fathered the line of descendants. In our version of events, God punishes Cain by granting him superpowers, with the catch that he can't walk in sunlight anymore, with this never-ending thirst for blood, thus creating the first vampire. It could be argued that Cain's true punishment was in fact the paranoia of immortality, knowing the only thing left to fear is death itself, which manifests itself into distrust, jealousy and hatred that is passed down from generation to generation, forcing Cain to watch each generation, his children, kill and fight each other over and over again. According to the Book of Nod, which is essentially the Cainite Bible, Cain's unknown and immediate descendants were the second generation of vampires. They are said to have all been wiped out during either the deluge or the flood, but should any of them still be in existence, they would be impossibly powerful monstrosities. Some of the 13 clans claim that their original progenitor was a second generation vampire and not the third generation antediluvians, who are commonly known as the clan founders. We only know the name of 2 antediluvians, Lucen and Meket. If they survive, they are intentionally hidden, manipulating their childish childer from the shadows, having them wage war against each other, a term we refer to as jihad. They are terrible beings who also share godlike powers. The 4th and 5th generation vampires are known as Mephilusas and are nearly as powerful and secretive as the antediluvians, acting as pawns in the jihad conflict. Their numbers have dwindled over the eons, so it is rumoured they are hidden within the bowels of the sects in Konyu or the Tau Mahira to avoid diablerie. Generations 6 to 8 are commonly known as elders. Their movements dominate the modern factions, or sects as we call them. The elders are usually ones of political power, leaders of political movements, rulers of cities, etc. etc. Generations 9 and 10 are ancillae, but are very rarely referred to as elders, as many of the true elders have been summoned by the beckoning to fight in the ongoing Gehenna war in the Middle East. The ancillae are kindred, who are the midway point between elder and neonate, who are the Cainites of generation 11 to 13. Most kindred of the modern knight belong to this generation, which probably includes you. There are some who are so detached from Cain that they do not have access to our disciplines, the unique gifts of Cain, our superpowers, in the same way any other generation can. These kindred are of generations 14 and 15 and are called Finbloods. Those of generation 15 cannot embrace their own child, and most kindred despise their presence. Some fear the recent blossoming numbers, as large numbers of Finbloods is supposed to be one of the signs of Gehenna, which is essentially the vampire apocalypse. Whether you choose to believe this is down to you. Regardless of generation, every kindred belongs to one of 13 clans, so we will need to find out what your clan is. Think of it as your breed of vampire. Your clan is your lineage, the family into which you were embraced, each one distinguished by the antediluvian founder, who are said to be one of 13 vampires embraced by Enoch, Irad, Zilia, and any other of Cain's childer. You may be one of the smaller bloodlines, but I find that highly unlikely, as they are quite the secretive bunch. You could of course be a caitiff, which means that you have no inherent clan, but pray that not be the case, because many kindred don't like the caitiffs just as much, if not more so, than the Finbloods. Each clan have their own trio of mystical abilities known as disciplines, and a passive floor, which will reveal themselves at some point, I'm sure. As for the clans themselves, I'll give you a brief overview of each clan, as they all are very varied in how they behave and requires more time than I have right now. The Assamites, who have recently adopted the term Banu Hakim, are silent virtuosos in assassination who collect blood to bring them closer to their maker. The Bruja, or Bruja, were once philosopher monarchs of an ancient civilization, but are now deadbeat rebels. The Ministry, once known as the followers of Set, adopt the idea that Set, the Egyptian god of the underworld, is their maker and do whatever they can to manipulate those around them whilst protecting their own strange artifacts. These are the group of kindred, by the way, that refer to themselves as Setites. The Gangrel resemble the beasts associated with vampires more than any other clan. The Giovanni is a strange, insular family who embrace only within their own. They practice necromancy whilst dictating global finances, something that they have been doing since the Renaissance. The La Sombra are inhumane nobles who are able to manipulate the darkness around them. Clan Malkavian are broken by madness, each one raging from unhinged to batshit crazy. The Nosferatu are hideously disfigured upon their embrace, so they hide in sewers away from kine eyes. If you want to find out something, go and speak to one of them, as they hoard secrets. The Ravenos are described as gypsies by other Kindred standards, but there is more to them than that, I assure you. They are powerful tricksters who can force the mind to see what isn't really there. The Clan of the Rose, the Toreadors, enjoy every sensual pleasure that unlife has to offer them. They appear to like pretty fiends, but it is all terribly forced to make them seem as human as possible. The Tremere became vampires through treachery and trickery, wielding supernatural blood magic and impressive knowledge. The Shemitzi distance themselves from mortality as much as possible, for they are old world lords of eldritch horror, as they are able to manipulate flesh and bone as if it was some grotesque putty. And finally, through their self-imposed entitlement and greed, the Blue Bloods, the Ventru, are often the iron fist that rules a given city, imposing their own wills with the traditions onto kindred society. And what are these traditions, you ask? Well, the traditions are a set of customs, rules if you would, that exists for our protection. They allow us to mingle and feed among the mortals without drawing attention to ourselves. Most kindred follows the traditions to an extent. There are 6 of them for you to learn. Number 1, the Masquerade, which is the most important one. Never reveal your true nature to the kine. Number 2, the Domain, which is often employed by a prince of a given city. You follow their rules and respect the land in which you tread, you should avoid the final death. From the prince at least. Some princes allow other kindred to own their own territory, but such liberal princes are rarity these days. The following 2 are connected as they both revolve around the embrace. The Progeny, the 3rd tradition, states that anyone who wishes to embrace must seek permission from the prince or baron of a city. The 4th is the Accounting, which means one sire is the owner of the progeny until he or she is deemed fit to fend for themselves. It also means that they are responsible for any fuck-ups the child may cause, and as I've effectively taken on that role for you, don't fuck with me. Number 5. Hospitality. The prince has a right to dictate who may stay in his or her domain, so don't be surprised if you are asked to leave tomorrow night. Number 6. Destruction refers to Lexa Telonius, or in plainer terms, a blood hunt. Should a prince call for one, a kindred's life is forfeit, as they are hunted by every kindred in the city. It is used so rarely that it is the only time a kindred may be allowed to perform diablerie, the drinking and draining of another vampire's blood. I used the term prince and baron a few times during that, and you may be somewhat baffled as to who these regal individuals are in the 21st century. In kindred society, there are 3 factions that have never really seen eye to eye with each other. Depending on where you are, a city will be ruled by one of these 3 sects. I will be brief here as well, as we do not have enough time to go into each one in depth. The sun is about to rise. The Camarilla, or the Camarilla, rules much of the Western world. The Camarilla hold in a given city is ruled by a prince. Some princes are heartless tyrants, or some are marionettes, politically propped up by more influential supporters. A prince has many roles, mainly enforcing his or her interpretation of the traditions, calling for Elysium, a meeting which all kindred must attend, or the aforementioned blood hunt. A baron has nothing to do with the Camarilla, for they are the rulers of a domain ruled by the Anarch movement, who has become a much larger force in recent years. Despite the name, anarchs often recognize that leadership is a necessary evil in a domain when a domain is ruled by thuggish pacts. A baron is a prince in all but name and reputation. They respect the Masquerade and traditions, but not the tyrannical politics that some suggest the Camarilla may have. Finally, there is the Sabbat, whose numbers in the west have plummeted due to their involvement with the Gehenna War in the east, which will also be a conversation for another time. Whilst the Anarchs and the Camarilla wish to uphold the Masquerade, the Sabbat believe that vampires should rule the mortals, for they see themselves as something far greater than the mere cattle. The closest thing the Sabbat have to a prince or a baron is an archbishop, who is more of a spiritual leading warlord as they fight the holy war against the antediluvians. The Sabbat refer to themselves as Cainites, as the term Kindred is very much a Camarilla invention. Whilst most of the clans belong to one of these sects, there are some of the clans that have formed their own individual sects, such as the Ravnos or the Giovanni. There are also those from a given clan that doesn't belong with any sect. These kindred are known as autarchus. That should be enough for you to digest on for now. I am sure I have replaced many of your original questions with plenty of new ones, most of which I intend to answer in the near future. To be kept updated, follow the Law by Night VTM Twitter and Instagram pages to find out when we will upload each episode. You can also find out by subscribing to the YouTube channel and clicking on the little bell, as you will be immediately notified when the latest episode is live. Until next time, farewell.